It's been a big week for the world of GLP-1 news. Are people really quitting GLP-1s in huge numbers? A new study reveals that most adults stop taking drugs like Zepbound, Ozempic, and Mounjaro within 2 years, and the reasons might surprise you. That and an interesting court case where Novo Nordisk gets booted out over compounding, plus the FDA just gave Ozempic a game-changing new approval for kidney disease, and a major study debunks fears about GLP-1s and thyroid cancer. Stick around for all the latest updates.
Welcome to the Downsized News. It's Monday, February 3rd, 2025, and we're excited to share the latest on GLP-1 medications. I'm Lorraine Durham, and I've lost over 50 pounds using compounded tirzepatide. That's the same active ingredient as in Zepbound and Mounjaro.
And I'm Christopher Durham, and I've lost 94 pounds with the help of these medications. Today, we're here to chat about everything you need to know about GLP-1s: Mounjaro, Zepbound, Wegovy, Ozempic, tirzepatide, and Semaglutide.
But before we start, just a quick reminder, we're not doctors. We are passionate about GLP-1s and weight loss, but talking to a qualified healthcare professional is important before starting any medication or treatment.
And make sure to join us each week for Downsized Live. This week it will, of course, be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be answering your questions, sharing updates, and connecting with you, our incredible community. It's always a great time, and we'd love to see you there. And while you're here, please do not forget to tap that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest on GLP-1s and our adventure.
Now let's get into today's news and explore what's happening in the world of GLP-1s. In story number 1, in a recent legal development, Novo Nordisk filed a lawsuit against Well Health Incorporated in the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Florida. The case number is 323-CV-00782. The pharmaceutical giant alleged that Well Health was compounding and dispensing drugs containing semaglutide, the active ingredient in Novo Nordisk's FDA-approved medications such as Ozempic and Wegovy. Novo Nordisk contended that Well Health's actions violated the Florida Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act, or FDUTPA, by selling new drugs without proper approval and distributing products with impurities. However, U.S. District Judge Ann C. Conway dismissed the lawsuit, ruling that Novo Nordisk's claims were preempted by the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. The FDCA grants exclusive enforcement authority to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, thereby prohibiting private entities from initiating enforcement actions. Judge Conway noted that Novo Nordisk's allegations under the FDUTPA were intrinsically linked to FDCA compliance, leading to their implied preemption. This case is part of a broader legal strategy by Novo Nordisk to address the compounding and sale of semaglutide by various pharmacies. The company has initiated similar lawsuits against other compounding pharmacies, including True Life Pharmacy, Brooksville Pharmaceuticals, and DCA Pharmacy. While some of these cases are ongoing, the lawsuit against DCA Pharmacy was settled in September 2024. Well Health's legal representative, Diane Katzen, expressed satisfaction with the court's decision, describing it as well-reasoned and supported. Novo Nordisk has not provided a public comment regarding the dismissal. This legal outcome underscores the complex interplay between federal regulatory authority and private litigation in the pharmaceutical industry. As the situation evolves, stakeholders are advised to stay updated on further developments.
So what does that mean for us?
Novo Nordisk might come for your pharmacy. I don't know.
Well, Novo Nordisk basically...
But the judge said you can't do that.
They were trying to use state law to preempt federal law, right? And essentially the federal law says the FDA is in charge.
Right. The FDA will bring the lawsuit. So, Novo, calm down.
Yeah, calm down. You can't do that. But good try. Thanks for playing. Story number 2, imagine putting your trust in a medication, one that's supposed to help you lose weight and improve your health, only to find out it may not have been made in a safe, sterile environment. That's exactly the fear the FDA raised last week when it issued a warning letter to ProRx, a compounding pharmacy producing tirzepatide and semaglutide. The FDA's message was clear. ProRx's facility in Exton, Pennsylvania failed to meet federal safety standards. Inspectors found serious problems, including contaminated environments, mislabeled drugs, and a failure to properly report adverse reactions. The company had registered as an outsourcing facility under Section 503B of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. That status means it should have been following strict safety and sterility rules, but according to the FDA, it was not. When inspectors visited the facility last summer, they saw things that should never happen where sterile drugs are made. Flying insects were in clean rooms, workers touching drug components with bare hands, no environmental monitoring to ensure sterility. Even the company's pharmacist in charge was caught kneeling on the floor before returning to sterile production without proper disinfection. The FDA did not hold back. They said drug products you produce failed to meet the conditions of Section 503B. So what was the result of this? Well, the result was serious deficiencies in your practices for producing drug products intended or expected to be sterile, which put patients at risk. The FDA also flagged major labeling issues. ProRx's compounded tirzepatide and semaglutide didn't include important details like dosage instructions, active ingredients, or even the name and contact information of the pharmacy. On top of that, ProRx failed to report adverse events as required. In August, the company stopped making sterile drugs and recalled some of its products. But in November, it told the FDA it planned to start up again. Well, the problem with that is the FDA says ProRx has not proved that they have fixed anything. The letter notes that the company provided some responses, but they weren't enough. We are unable to fully evaluate some of your corrective actions due to the lack of adequate supporting documentations, the FDA said. And that's not all. The FDA called out ProRx for not investigating why insects were found in the sterile areas. It appears your firm has not conducted any investigation to identify the root cause specifically, where and how these insects enter the facility, or take an appropriate reaction to eliminate those points of ingress. The letter also blasted ProRx's gowning and glove procedures. Your gowning procedure permits the reuse of gowning multiple times after entry and exit of the clean room, within the same compounding day, which also represents a contamination risk. And then there was the issue of labeling. The FDA said companies' drug labels did not include the required statement, "This is a compounded drug." For patients and prescribers, this is a wake-up call. The FDA has been cracking down on compounding pharmacies making GLP-1s like tirzepatide and semaglutide. With drug makers like Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk pushing to compounding, access to these medications could become even harder. So the question is, what happens next? Well, the FDA says ProRx needs to take prompt action to address its violations or face legal consequences that could include seizures, injunctions, or other penalties. For now, patients using compounded versions of semaglutide and tirzepatide should stay informed. The FDA isn't playing around, and compounding access is under more scrutiny than ever.
So what's the name of this pharmacy again?
ProRx.
ProRx. If that's your compounder, you might want to take a closer look at these stories.
Right, and it points to the bigger issue, right? So ProRx is theoretically a 503B pharmacy, which means they're operating as a manufacturer, and they should be operating in sterile rooms, following sterile procedures. There should be no bugs. But the FDA has regulation over them, so the FDA has been in checking them out.
Why doesn't the FDA... I mean, were they issued any penalty? Sounds like they should have been issued more than just a warning.
I mean, they have to follow the regulations. The other thing that it points out is if you're getting medication that doesn't say who made it, what it is, give you instructions, say it's compounded, be very careful about where you're getting your medications from. Check it out every time you take it. Read the instructions. Make sure they're there. If something is cheaper than it should be normally, ask a question, and maybe it's too good to be true. So on the telehealth and the compounding pharmacy side, you have got to follow their regulations. One terrible incident could shut everything down. Your business goes away, somebody gets hurt or dies. This would be terrible. Follow the rules. Make sure you're producing sterile, safe medication.
Well, I'd like the FDA to maybe take some stronger action when they do see these things than just a warning, basically a slap on the wrist.
Absolutely.
That's what I'd like to see. In story number 3, a new poll from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research shows that 50% of U.S. adults believe it's a good thing for people with obesity to use medications like Ozempic, Zepbound, Mounjaro, and Wegovy. Only 20% think it's a bad idea. The rest are unsure. But when it comes to teens, opinions shift. Only 1/3 of Americans think kids ages 12 to 18 should have access to these medications. Another third are against it, and the rest don't take a strong stance. These medications, originally made for diabetes, exploded in popularity after the FDA approved them for weight loss in 2021. Now they're everywhere, on TV, in the news, on social media, and in conversations with friends and family. Even with all the attention, many Americans still don't fully understand them. The poll also highlights a major roadblock: insurance coverage. About 50% of Americans support Medicare and Medicaid covering weight loss drugs for people with obesity. But 20% oppose it, and 25% are undecided. Right now, Medicare doesn't cover these drugs for obesity at all, and Medicaid coverage varies by state. Some employers are adding coverage, while other employers are cutting back due to the high cost. Who should use these medications? Most Americans agree that people without obesity shouldn't take GLP-1s for weight loss. That concern grows when it comes to teens. Around 80% of people over 45 believe it's a bad idea for teens without obesity to use them. Younger adults are a little bit more open to the idea, but even among them, most don't support it. For people using a GLP-1 to treat obesity, this poll highlights a major issue. Many Americans still don't recognize obesity as a disease. Even though doctors, researchers, and medical organizations have classified obesity as a chronic condition and disease, public perception hasn't caught up. This misunderstanding fuels stigma. Many still believe obesity is just about willpower, not biology. That outdated thinking affects everything from public opinion to insurance coverages. GLP-1s are not a shortcut. They are a medical tool to treat a serious disease. Until more people understand that, access to these life-changing medications could remain an uphill battle.
So what do you think of these numbers? Do they surprise you? So what you expect?
I talk to people every day who have never heard of these medications. I talk to people every day who are against these medications. And I talk to people every day who have just discovered them and think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I think we're just beginning these GLP-1s.
Honestly, the only number there that surprised me was the unsure number. I would have thought it would be bigger.
I
I've
mean,
been like, I haven't even thought about it. What did they do? I've never heard of them.
How many people do they poll? Were they in a big city? Were they nationwide? I definitely think people learning about them through social media and the mainstream media and through places like our channel, but most people I don't think have even heard about it yet.
Yeah, well.
And I think teens, 12 to 18, definitely can benefit from these medications under a doctor's supervision.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the right thing to treat their disease, absolutely.
Yes.
Story number 4, late last week, the FDA gave Ozempic a big new approval that can now be used to help people with chronic kidney disease, or CKD, who also have type 2 diabetes. This is a huge step for the blockbuster GLP-1 drug. It started as a diabetes treatment, then it was approved to lower heart risks. Now it's officially recognized for kidney health, too. Ozempic is also sold as Wegovy, a higher dose version used to treat the disease of obesity. Novo Nordisk makes both medications, and they contain the same active ingredient, semaglutide. The decision comes after a large clinical trial showed some impressive results. Weekly Ozempic injections cut the risk of kidney disease getting worse by 24%. It also lowered the risk of kidney failure and reduced the chance of dying from heart disease by 5%. Chronic kidney disease is common in people with diabetes. About a third of adults with diabetes have it, and diabetes itself is a top cause of kidney failure. Kidney disease is one of the leading causes of death in the U.S. and worldwide. The study that led to this approval started in 2019. It included over 3,500 people across 28 countries. Researchers followed them for over 3 years. The results were so strong that the trial was stopped early. Even though scientists aren't sure exactly how semaglutide protects the kidneys, the benefits are clear. Novo Nordisk's Chief Medical Officer Stephen Goff said this approval will help doctors make better decisions for their patients. Ozempic is already a widely used medication, but demand has been high. Novo Nordisk hopes the new approval will help more doctors prescribe it for the right patients, especially those at risk for kidney failure. This makes Ozempic the most broadly approved GLP drug yet. It now has more specific medical uses than any other medication in its class. Novo Nordisk is also studying semaglutide for even more conditions, including Alzheimer's and fatty liver disease. For now, this approval gives hope to millions of people living with both diabetes and kidney disease. It's another sign that GLP-1 medications are doing more than just treating diabetes. They're changing the way we fight serious health problems. So although Ozempic is approved by a lot of insurance companies for use for type 2 diabetes, it's not by all insurance companies by any stretch of the imagination. So adding another condition should raise the incidence of acceptance by insurance.
Most adults with overweight or obesity stop taking GLP-1 medications within 2 years, according to a new study published in JAMA Network Open. Researchers analyzed data from 125,000 adults who started liraglutide, semaglutide, or tirzepatide between 2018 and 2023. They found that 53% stopped their medication after 1 year. By the 2-year mark, 72% had quit. People without type 2 diabetes were more likely to stop taking their GLP-1. After 1 year, 64% had discontinued compared to 46% of those with type 2 diabetes. By year 2, 84% of people without type 2 diabetes had stopped treatment. Millions of Americans could benefit from GLP-1s, but clinical trials suggest patients need to stay on these drugs to experience sustained benefits, said Patricia Rodriguez, PhD, the study's lead author and principal applied research scientist at Truveta Research. This study found that the majority of patients stop these drugs within a year, which could be related to how much weight loss they experience, whether they have side effects, and how relatively affordable the medications are. Reinitiation was common, especially after weight regain. Of the 41,792 patients included in the reinitiation analysis, 47% of those with type 2 diabetes restarted within a year. For those without diabetes, the number was lower at 36%. The high discontinuation rate among patients without type 2 diabetes was striking, said Ezekiel Emanuel, MD, PhD, co-author of the study and vice provost for global initiatives at the University of Pennsylvania. This reinforces concerns that insurance barriers limit sustained use for those seeking GLP-1s for weight management. The study found that a 1% weight loss during treatment reduced the likelihood of stopping by 3%, but patients who regained weight after stopping were significantly more likely to restart. We found that when patients regained weight, they were more likely to restart, which is consistent with anecdotal reports, Rodriguez said. Moderate to severe gastrointestinal side effects were also a major reason people quit. Those who experienced these side effects were much less likely to restart later. These insights emphasize the need for policy changes to improve insurance coverage for individuals without type 2 diabetes, as well as strategies to manage side effects and enhance patient adherence, Emanuel said. The researchers concluded that more studies are needed to understand the long-term health outcomes. They also called for policy changes to improve access to GLP-1s as the cost, coverage, and supply landscape for GLP-1s evolve. Continue research is needed to understand impacts to equitable access and adherence, Rodriguez said. For now, the data confirms what many patients already know. Staying on a GLP-1 can be a challenge, but for those who stop, weight regain often leads them back. I had a lady ask me in the gym today. She's known me for a couple years, seen me lose 50 pounds, and she said, well, do you still have to take it? Are you still taking it? Mm-hmm. I said, yes, I will remain on this long-term probably for the rest of my life. I said, because it's a treatment. It's not a cure, right? So I think what the study doesn't address is the stigma people have. Even those who are taking GLP-1s, a lot of them at some point in the future want to stop taking them because there's this feeling that they want to do it on their own, right? They want to do it without medication. But that's really a misnomer because for most people with the disease of obesity, you stop taking this medication, your appetite comes back, the food noise comes back, your brain stops talking to your gut, and all your weight comes back, which is what you've been battling your whole life. So, but there's still such a stigma, even among people who are taking these GLP-1s and losing weight on these GLP-1s, that I think, most of them want to stop. They'll pay the money to lose the weight. I don't think they understand they have to keep taking it for the results to maintain.
Well, it's why I think it's interesting in this news episode that we have the earlier research that talked about 50% of Americans think it's okay to take these, and it kind of gives you those early, as those numbers go up and people become more knowledgeable about them, and the language begins to change. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's happening quicker than I could have imagined, honestly.
Right.
That stigma should diminish. I don't know that it ever goes away, because you're always going to have somebody that say, I lost it the natural way. Well, I don't know what natural way means. That doesn't mean anything. There's no bad weight loss unless you're
and
sick.
Even talking about the gastrointestinal side effects and other things people might experience, I think a lot of people are given this medication by their doctors and said, good luck, see you in 6 months, hope you can, figure it out. So, a lot of people need more support than that, right? Everybody needs more support than that. They need to know, maybe you need electrolytes, maybe you need some protein powder, maybe you need to take some fiber, maybe there's all kinds of things that can support you, but people aren't given that information up front with the medication a lot of times.
And I think it's going to dramatically change our healthcare system. I mean, so many doctors are used to writing a prescription and you go pick it up and you just take it.
Right.
And it's very reactive, right? It's treating the problem. It's not trying to be proactive and, being ahead of it.
You just need more. There's more to it than just taking the shot is the most important thing.
Sure.
But patients still need to be counseled on nutrition and what's the portion size, and maybe I need some vitamins, and I need some other support.
It's holistic healthcare. It's not just writing a prescription and going, okay, you go do that.
High blood pressure medication and your blood pressure comes down. It's it's everything else that you're also you're doing in your life also.
I mean, I dove deep into this research. The numbers that weren't there that I wanted the most were splitting it out on why they quit.
Yeah.
So was it because it was too expensive? Was it because I had side effects? Was it because somebody said something mean to me? Was it,
And I think it's all those things. I think, and I've seen people who quit, they gain, 30 pounds back, and then they're like, oh, I guess I shouldn't have quit. And that's when they reinitiate or they go back on it, and then maybe the second time around they realize, oh, I'm going to have to stay on it. And it's a shame, because if they had just been told up front, you're going to need to stay on this, then they wouldn't have to do the yo-yo thing, right?
Well, but my gut says more people quit because of cost than anything else.
The
numbers aren't there,
factor.
so I don't know that.
I mean, that's a huge factor, because our insurance doesn't cover these medications. Over $1,300 per month retail price. So but that's where compounding definitely fills a need.
For sure. All right. So interesting research, a couple of things, and we'll keep track of this. So hopefully a year from now, those numbers change and we can see different things.
We've been on this almost a year and a half.
Right.
We're not quitting at the 2-year mark.
No, we are not.
It'll be 2 years for us in September of 2025. So we are not quitting, and we would strongly... we are strong advocates for staying on this medication.
If it's right for you, absolutely, you should be doing that. Story number 6, many people fighting obesity don't realize their liver could be in danger. MASH, or metabolic dysfunction-associated steatohepatitis, is a silent disease that happens when too much fat builds up in the liver, causing inflammation and long-term damage. Over time, this can lead to liver scarring, cirrhosis, and even liver failure, often without symptoms until it's too late. For those using GLP-1s, weight loss can help reduce liver fat, but researchers are looking for even better ways to protect the liver while improving overall health. That's where the new drug DD01, a new GLP-1 glucagon receptor agonist, could make a difference. D&D Pharmatech has just finished signing up patients for a 48-week phase 2 trial testing DD01 in people with MASH and obesity. This drug is designed to work fast, directly targeting liver fat, while also helping with blood sugar and weight loss. In early studies, patients saw a big drop in liver fat within just 4 weeks. Unlike other treatments, DD01 does not require a slow increase in dose, making it easier to start. The first trial results should be available by mid-2025, and the FDA has already given DD01 fast track status, meaning they see real potential. If this drug works as expected, it could provide another tool for people using GLP-1s to fight obesity, protect their liver, and improve their overall health.
Sounds good.
So this is where the science gets interesting, because when you get down to what they're saying here, it's a GLP-1 and a GIP, which is basically the same thing as tirzepatide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand enough or have enough information to know how this differs from tirzepatide.
Mm-hmm.
Must differ. It says that you don't have to titrate up, right?
Did it say which company is developing?
It does say the name of the company is, one moment, D&D Pharmatech.
Pharmatech. There's the name we haven't.
I have not. And, there's supposedly 600 plus drugs out there in development, but could be another exciting way. I know some of these smaller ones are targeting some of the comorbidities because it's easier to get insurance approval for versus weight loss and obesity. So another option could be on the horizon, which is exciting.
In story number 7, big news for people using GLP-1s, a new study found no link between these drugs and thyroid cancer. For years, some people worried that GLP-1s might increase the risk of thyroid cancer. But this study, led by Sarah M. Baxter from Queen's University Belfast and published in Thyroid on January 16th, found no connection. Researchers analyzed data from nearly 100,000 GLP-1 users and compared them to over 2.49 million people using a different type of diabetes medication called DPP-4 inhibitors. The result? No increased risk. The study followed patients for a median of 1.8 to 3 years. It used data from 6 population-based databases across Canada, Denmark, Norway, South Korea, Sweden, and Taiwan. The results showed that even with higher doses of GLP-1s, there was no sign of increased thyroid cancer risk. The pooled weighted hazard ratio was 0.81, with a 95% confidence interval from 0.59 to 1.12, indicating no significant association. In this large multi-site study, we found no evidence that GLP-1 RA use is associated with an increased risk of thyroid cancer over short-term follow-up, the authors wrote. However, they noted that longer-term studies are needed to fully understand any potential risks over extended use. This is good news for those of us using GLP-1s to treat our disease of obesity. It adds to the growing body of research showing these medications are safe and effective. However, researchers say more studies are needed to understand long-term risks. Right now, though, the data looks reassuring. As always, talk to your doctor about any concerns, but for now, this is another win for GLP-1 users.
So, and this is a big win. I mean, that's a huge database, 100,000 people over a 3-year period of time. Mm-hmm. Researchers are always going to say we want more research because, why wouldn't they? It's their job.
So they looked at those people using GLP-1s and then correlated it to the people with thyroid cancer?
On to the people with using the other drug as well, the DPP, whatever it was. Right, so no correlation.
No correlation.
Story number 8, we know GLP-1s can be life-changing, but not everyone responds the same way. Some see dramatic weight loss while others lose less. Now, new research could help explain why. A company called Helix has created the largest ever database of real-world patient data for people on GLP-1s. They're studying over 15,000 people to understand how genetics, medical history, and other factors impact results. The goal? Well, it's to make these treatments even safer, more effective, and possibly more affordable in the future. Dr. James Liu, Helix's CEO, said, "The demand for GLP-1s keeps growing and research needs to keep up. Their data set has tripled in size in just a year. By combining genetic data with patient health records, Helix is uncovering new insights into how these medications work for different people. At a recent medical conference, Helix researchers shared a breakthrough. They found a way to predict how well semaglutide will work for weight loss. By looking at the person's genetics and conditions like type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure, they can estimate how much weight someone might lose in a year. This kind of research could help doctors personalize treatment plans, giving patients the best chance of success. It's also part of a bigger effort to understand how GLP-1s impact long-term health, including heart disease, kidney disease, and more. For those of you who don't know Helix, Helix is a leader in precision health, working with health systems, life science companies, and insurers to bring genomic data into patient care and drug development. Their work is helping to personalize medicine and improve treatments across many conditions. Their research happens through the Helix Research Network, or HRN, which is the largest and fastest growing precision clinical research network in North America. Patients in HRN agree to share their health and genomic data while approved researchers to advance science and health insights. This work is already leading to breakthroughs in cardiometabolic diseases, autoimmune conditions, neurodegeneration, and more. So, more data, and it's fun, cool stuff.
Yeah, so I guess if you have a certain set of genetic markers, then this could work better for you, or it could work not as well for you. So would it just be really level setting patients' expectations at the beginning of a GLP-1 treatment plan?
I think their long-term goal is to say, let's run your genetics, let's look at your health history, and then because we've compared it to hundreds of thousands of people, we can find people like you on semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, or forglipron, and we can match the best medication to you.
Oh, so for matching medication, or just to know how the GLP-1 is going to
all of the
work
above,
for them?
all of the above. But I think that's what they're trying to get to.
Trying to get to the best medication based on your genetic profile.
Right.
Interesting.
So that you wouldn't have to waste thousands of dollars being on one that wasn't as effective as one could be. Or theoretically, it could also minimize any of the side effects because you would have that in your medical record as well. So it could see, based on your genetics, what you were... Sure.
Side effects based on genetics?
On reported side effects, too, right? So if you've been going to your doctor, it's like you've given them access to your records. You know, well, you discontinued this drug because of the side effects, but this one worked for you. And it knows your genetics, right? So it could do all these things. Now, we're a ways off, but it's exciting theoretically. Well, that wraps up today's edition of the Downsized News. We hope you found the updates helpful and insightful as you navigate your own GLP-1 adventure.
And while you're here, don't forget to check out our Downsized store at thedownsized.org, where you'll find GLP-1 companion products and more to support your adventure. We're Amazon affiliates, so we make a small commission off each purchase.
Before we sign off, if you've enjoyed following the adventure Lorraine and I are on and want to stay updated with real stories, insights, and tips about GLP-1s, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest updates and live streams. And of course, a special thank you to our Club Downsized members. Your support means the world to us and allows us to keep creating content that inspires and informs. We couldn't do this without you. Your support helps us grow and continue sharing valuable content for those of us navigating life with the disease of obesity.
I'm Lorraine Durham.
And I'm Christopher Durham, and we are the Downsized. See you next time.